Hey and welcome to Throne and Liberty with Aragon. So here I just want to show you all of my game settings, particularly ones to help you have a much better action combat experience in Throne and Liberty. Without the correct setup, you may be experiencing a pretty horrible janky time. I personally play Crossbow and Dagger, and so my setting options are indeed adapted for it, so that I can use the right abilities in the right order at the right times more conveniently. I do already have just about 150 hours playtime in this game over the past few weeks, and within that time I sure have messed around with the settings quite a bit, and I'm finally in a pretty happy state where they're at least again for Crossbow and Dagger. So let's begin. Again, on PC you can go to your settings just here, and we'll start with gameplay. The first things I would recommend changing are right here. And what we're doing is just going off the default settings. If you want to copy exactly what I'm doing, you can just click reset all and then follow through these steps. You're going to want to change the control mode to action. This will already adjust some settings and ultimately allow you to press a key and then your mouse disappears, and then you can freely move the mouse around and move normally like you would in an action combat game. And you can somewhat target enemies that your mouse cursor is looking at. But after that, make sure to put Q skills off. Now by default, I believe it is also off, but it is something I wanted to mention. This, I find, is utterly terrible for setting up rotations. If you accidentally click an ability while it's like on cooldown, just because say you fat fingered something or you end up wanting to change your mind and not have cast it, it's going to queue that skill. So as soon as it's off cooldown, it's going to cast. And that might have been a mistake press, and now it's gone and cast the power when I actually didn't wanted it to. It basically doesn't allow you to change your mind. Then there is the settings with auto move. This can be debatable depending on the content you're running. For the beginning of the game, I felt it was a big improvement, allowing me to move that little bit of an extra distance towards the target to be able to attack them, particularly when you're using melee abilities which maybe have a short distance. This has 3 meters, so if I'm like a pixel further than 3 meters, the power wouldn't cast, and if I have then this setting enabled, my character will move that pixel and then cast the attack. The only issue is when you're fighting, say, a boss where movement is critical. You don't want to accidentally left click and end up moving towards the boss and walking into a red zone. That's when I would recommend turning this off, and over time I would ultimately have it off for all content and just get used to that. But at least starting out for me, it helped a lot, especially with melee combat and fighting with, say, the daggers and using those melee abilities. But again, just be aware, it can get you killed in certain fights. Now I do recommend toggling aim skills on and aim skills lock on current target. That last one there, you again might want to turn off. You'll turn it off when you want to be able to, say, freely cast a multi-target ability like this by being able to aim it anywhere. If you have it enabled to snap on your target, then it's going to center on that target. It helps if you're just spamming out your rotation and you don't have great aimed skills. So for Crossbow and Dagger, it's perfectly fine to have that enabled. Otherwise you could end up just missing with your knives accidentally. But eventually you might want to learn to have it off. Particularly when playing as a healer, you want to be able to aim where you want to put these multi-target attacks rather than having them always like centered on the person you have targeted. Moving to the next category under gameplay is your character. These are the settings I would recommend changing. Just be aware, wind indicator can be useful. It will help you get a little bit of an extra range boost when you're shooting towards the direction of the wind. You will see this little arrow on my guy right there, and it's going to have like 2 or 3 arrows more depending on the strength of the wind. So if I'm shooting my arrows in that direction, like my crossbow bolts, or if I have a bow, arrows, then I'll gain a teeny bit of an extra ranged boost. And if I'm shooting arrows in the other direction, then I'll lose a little bit of range. It can depend whether you need that, and ultimately You generally don't, but just be aware it exists, and I generally have it off just so I don't have that annoying indicator. I would prefer there to just be like an arrow on the map here which would show me, but alas. Then you probably want to change a bunch with, say, the nameplates and the health bars of friendlies and enemies. I've gone and put all of these on so that I will very easily be able to see who my enemies are, see my friends, and if I'm playing a healer, it can be very helpful as well to see the health of friendlies all the time. And with regards to enemies, it can help to like spot them, to know exactly which figures running around are your enemies when their HP bars are always active. They'll show up as like pink or orange when you're fighting them. And then, yes, I also like to make sure that my own nameplate is off, taking it out from the party HUD. It was a little bit weird for me on the left side to show like my nameplate at the top and then to have it again included with the others. I prefer to just have myself at the top once and then the rest of them there. But if you want like this on the left side to be able to see yourself amongst the group, then sure, you can do that. But again, for me, it's a little bit weird. And otherwise, I like to turn off my Amatoy. There's no real need to have it walking around with me. And honestly, I don't really like to look at them. They're a bit childish, just stuffed little toys. None of them I actually like to look off. So I have no need to see them. But again, the options in gameplay and character if you want to change it. The next one would be in gameplay target that I would adjust. And make sure you have auto target nearest enemy when attacking without target. And if you're running PvP, make sure to have this on order of priority. This can screw you over a little bit when you're running into PvE, so I tend to have it off when I'm just fighting bosses and monsters and there's no need for me to target players, because you can end up just targeting friendlies if you have this enabled when there's like hundreds of other players around you. Then with the gameplay camera, I do recommend turning camera smoothing off. It just makes it to be a little bit more snappier, and then absolutely turn shake effects off. And then with gameplay content, I do suggest turning that off. It just basically disrupts you kind of by popping up all of these blue quests, which you might not want to be doing right now. So instead of popping up all the blue quests, it will still give you a bit of a notification, but rather than being a whole list of quests, it just pops this up and you can click on it and you can see exactly which quests. And if you want to do them, you star them and then they'll be prioritized there. But for now, I'm focusing on, say, these contract quests. I want those to be displayed and not when I go to a new place that I get a whole bunch of blue quests that get prioritized. Then with gameplay chat, I recommend changing the settings like this. There's no real need to have the category display. It just adds like these icons next to everyone and it just makes the whole chat bigger. And then I like to have auto translate, especially because my server has a lot of Germans, so at least I can see what they're saying. And then to just have the chat minimize after 10 seconds rather than it being disruptive while I'm trying to play my game. And then with sound miscellaneous, by default for some reason game access voice guide is on. So if you don't want the guy speaking to you every time you load up the game, make sure to turn that off. Your other sound settings here, you can generally leave them at default. I like to turn the music off. I like to put the voice off when I'm just walking around here so the guys aren't yapping at me, especially if you're in a town. You have these NPCs who will just repeat the same lines over and over, and it just gets terrible. I wish there was an option that I could still have the voice on but turn the NPCs off, because the voice actually is very important when you're in PvE. It can be very helpful to have the voice of that boss so you can hear what they're saying. And you can also then move accordingly for the, say, mechanic. But then we go to shortcuts. So this is personal preference, most of it, and it's basically what I'm used to using, especially coming from the game of like Neverwinter. I tend to make a lot of my games have the same setups, use similar keys as other games so that my muscle memory can pretty much still be the same. I just put change control mode onto like this key. I don't need it. I'm staying in action mode all the time. Alt is still there for your cursor. That's by default, but you can see these changes here. So I would just clear the attack or interact mouse target. You don't need to have anything there, but you can bind it to something else. By default, it's going to be one of your mouse keys, which you're going to use for something else. Move constantly, I have on like my mouse button 5. Basic attack, I have on my left mouse button. Currently by default, I believe it's on E, which is kind of silly. I'm used to Neverwinter again. Your at-wills are used with your mouse buttons. It's an action combat game, so why not? What else are you going to use with your mouse buttons? And it will also let you say target an enemy. We'll go to some dummies, and when you left click looking at an enemy, it will target them. Even at an allied player, you left click, it will target them. That way you can like heal them. It is annoying going from a full action combat game that I have to click to target them. I would prefer to be able to just look at them, cast my ability, and the ability goes to who I'm looking at. Same with these dummies. Like if I have this guy targeted and I'm looking at this guy and I press my ability, I want it to attack the guy I'm looking at, not the guy who I have targeted. That's my biggest grievance with this game. It is originally a tab target game, so you're going to have to do a little bit of adapting to get used to it. And hopefully the devs can maybe change it a little bit, because I don't see it as being too hard. But yeah, basic attack, left mouse button. Defense skill, shift. Again, coming from Neverwinter, your defense skill, your dodge is shift. So you can have it the same in this game. Change target, I just have on this button. I don't use it. Basically, if you select your target here and then want to change it, you can press that button to basically rotate between different ones like that. And I believe it can be similar with players, but yeah, like it's going to switch off that player. Summon Guardian I just have on P, and Enable Disable Morph Acceleration I have on V. Be aware, that is basically your mount up shortcut. So if you're used to using a different button for your mount, just change it to that. So for me it's V. Basically when you're moving in any direction, you can press V and you'll turn into say your wolf and you can run around. If you're like jumping off a cliff, you can just press spacebar and you will glide like that, turning into your bird form. And then with the UI, I like to just have character info on C, because again, by default on like Neverwinter, it is C to open your character sheet. And then hide UI I just have on N, because again, that's also what I use for Neverwinter, to hide the HUD. To go to inspect mode basically. From there, again, more personalization stuff, and this is for all of the skills, the quick slots. They're again in the shortcut section right here, scrolling to the top. You can see them right there. These are your skills. So you're going to have 12 different keys. It's a bit daunting going from Neverwinter, where you had say 3 encounter powers and then like a tab ability and then 2 at-wills and 2 daily powers and then some potions. Here you have quite a bit more. So what I like to do is change them to all of these keys. This just helps me very simply with my powers and my rotation. You can see them all here, and on Crossbow and Daggers, this is my main rotation, so it's pretty straightforward. I just have like with T, I just activate that ability. You never have to press it again once it's activated, and so the rest of the rotation is just pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, and then Q, E, or, and then tab, and then caps lock, and then Q, and then E, and then tab again. So that makes it really easy to have all of the abilities close to your movement keys. That way you can still move around for the most part while casting your abilities. Particularly important for say PvP content. And again, it's just like what I'm used to with playing Neverwinter. And then with like quick slot 11 and 12, I have like a mouse button, and this one is just for my teleport ability. So we can do like that. And then my other one, G, is a support effect, just giving me like some mana back. And in other builds, I have it as like another kind of dodge ability. And this auto attacking you see all the time, I absolutely hate it in this game. Why? I don't want you to attack until I'm say holding down my button, thanks. And then just item quick slots, so they're basically like your potion trays. So I have H on one of them, I'm used to pressing H for like a healing potion, particularly in like Apex Legends I would play, or Fortnite, and you'd use it as like my main heal ability. So I have that here as well, just from muscle memory. And then because you have 3 other slots, they're generally just support effects that you don't use very often. They're fair enough to be like on the further away buttons, so we just have them on like 6, 7 and 8. And then select same target as party member we have on 5. That can actually be pretty useful when you're in PvP and want to focus the same target as your party leader. So if you have somebody who's good at coordinating, and again you want to focus the same guy that your leader's focusing, then you can just simply press 5 and you will start attacking that person if you're in range. Only really works for ranged classes, because yeah, if you're melee, well, I guess maybe if you're teleporting that could work, but again, you'd have to be right next to them and it might not work at that right time if you're, say, in different locations. And that is ultimately it for what I would change with my shortcuts. There is one thing though extra that I did say change just recently, because I'm getting into playing healer a bit, is the ability to press a key and immediately target a party member. This is another whole load of extra keys, so you could have it on your hold Alt and you click then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 depending on what party member you want to immediately target, and then you could cast your abilities. I'm not fully sure if I want to leave it like that, and I really don't have the muscle memory for it. Right now I still like go and left click on a player to be able to heal them after they're targeted. You like left click on them, and once they're left clicked, like having that marker on them, you know your heal abilities are going to them. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my setup of the settings that I use for this game, and it helps me a bunch. You can see here some suggestions that I would like them to add as options. The ability to auto-target an enemy or even an ally when you're just looking at them with your crosshair. In action combat mode, I don't want to have to left click before I can attack my target. I want to just be able to press a button and attack. It works when I don't have a target, but it doesn't work when I do have a target. If I have this guy targeted and I go to try and attack, say, this guy, it's not going to work because you already have a target. There just very simply needs to be an option that allows you to select auto target enemy within your crosshairs, and that's it. If I have that option selected, I should be able to just look at what I want and then click my ability to attack it. And right now I have to look at them and left click, and then I will attack it. And also, this continually auto attacking is horrible. Yes, I know you can change it so that you can toggle your like auto attack. You do that right here, and so if you do left click, you could left click again to stop, but then you just have to keep track of, did I left click, did I not? And you basically just end up spamming it and you end up just not working. And for me, it's not great. And so what you need to do here is like press X. Now also, because you don't really have an ability for, say, your right click, you could have that on right click as well. I'm used to having it on X, but I think I will work on getting the muscle memory for right click. So if I want to get rid of what I'm targeting, right click, and you'll also stop the basic attack. And if you right click again, you remove the target. But again, that's ultimately it for all of my settings, and my suggestions here again would be these that I would hope for as additional options. The ability to auto target an enemy, basically switching your target just by looking at them, not having to click an extra button. Add the option to hold the button for basic attack. I don't want it to be on and off like that. It seems ridiculous. I should be able to just hold left click. Add an option for stop blocking the mouse in the game, because right now, like if I press Alt here, my mouse won't leave the game. Like I can't put it on my extra screen until I say click the Windows button, which is super annoying. I right now need to go to the guild base and help my guild with guild bosses. But the final things would be adding an option for different voice sounds like we suggested. And then also movement needs some updates, honestly. Like jumping in the air, you can't exactly change direction. In Neverwinter you can. You can change direction slightly. Here it's like if I'm going in a direction, I press jump. There's nothing I can do to slow that jump, nothing I can do to change the direction of that jump. So I definitely want more options for controlling how you jump. Because also you can't change the jump distance. If you jump in a direction, you're always going to jump exact amount of distance. There's nothing you can change with that, which is super annoying. But overall, that's it for my settings within Throne and Liberty. They definitely help quite a lot from the norm that you have as the default. Because again, normally the game is set up as a tab target game. You're supposed to use your mouse to click on things, even while you're fighting in the heat of combat, which I hate. Super unimmersive. But thanks all for watching, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now. $25K.